I'm good.
All right, everybody, welcome into Fresh Takes with Russo and Felice. Welcome in here. Paul Russo, next to me, back again like that way for at least today. We're testing out something new at the moment. Is Nick Felice. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Paul. Happy first day of summer.
Yes, happy. That's right, it's the longest day of the year. How about that?
The longest day of the year.
Any major plans then for you?
No, just enjoy the weather. I also graduated from high school, Miners Academy, class of 2013, 10 years ago today. And
Yeah,
you're 11. Was it yesterday?
it's either like yesterday or 2 days. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, well, 10 years ago now. If time flies by. Shout out project graduation. Good time.
They don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they do that anymore, but it was a good time. NYCC, not called the NYCC anymore either, so that now makes me feel really old.
R.I.P.
Uh, but good times, yeah. So first day of summer, 6 weeks away from the start of Big Brother.
Yeah. Yeah, I was seeing your, like, and obviously, we always have, like, the couple topics, and, like, I'm sitting there going, like, Big Brother's got to be coming up soon, right? Because I'm used to it in my watching experience, right? It's right about now. And, no, they're going not back to, like, their original, but they're going back to, like, the original kind of, like, length of it, but they're not doing, because, like I say, it feels like it usually starts within a week.
It does, yeah.
But they're starting August 5th, I saw, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. 99 days, as you just told me before the show.
Yeah.
To it. So it's going to be going into, like, almost Halloween. So new cast, 25th season,
Yeah.
CBS.
I kind of hope not to go, because obviously now we're kind of sorry off topic, but that's all right. I don't mind that. Do you kind of hope they do, like, not necessarily because, like, they always kind of, like, repeat the challenges in a way.
Yeah, they do.
Do you hope they kind of do, though, like, a greatest hits type thing of it where they don't skirt or run away from, like, the name of it, where they just, like, switch it up? Like, I mean, I think the only one that hasn't changed, at least in my watching, has been, like, BB Comics. That's just has stayed the same through the whole thing.
OTEV's a little different.
But, like, yeah, OTEV always is, like, a different
Animal.
character. Yeah.
Whatever.
So, do you hope that they do, like, a greatest hit type thing? I guess Zingbot, too, but that's a little bit different.
You know, it's just like, I don't mind them doing the same challenges as much. I wish they would change it up a little bit.
I think it's
There's only
tough,
so
though.
much you can do.
Right.
But I hate that they do it. They do it, like, at the same week every year, too.
Right.
OTEV's right around, like, the start of the jury.
Yeah.
Comics is, like, towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think it's tough, too, though.
Obviously, I get comics because they
Yeah.
always have, like, you got to learn who the people are first to create
Right.
the comics. So
Right.
I can see why they do it later. But
I think it's tough, too, because I think, obviously, the past couple of years, you're put in a box of what you could or couldn't do anyway. But I'd be really intrigued to see if they kind of loosen up a little bit more on some stuff this year. Only because, like, I've seen, obviously now at this point, like, clips on YouTube and stuff like that of prior seasons before 2020. And I wouldn't say it's more, how can I put this, like, more close, people close to each other type thing. But, like, I could kind of tell where, like, okay, well, like, last season they got a little bit more closer, whereas, like, say, 21, I got the All-Star season, was a little bit different, where, they were a little bit closer compared to 2020, where, yeah, like, in the house, excuse me, they're still pretty close, but, the competitions were stuff that were maybe more spread out in a sense and stuff like that, but, Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I think it's tough because, like I said, it's 25th anniversary, so I think that this year they get maybe like a leeway in terms of like maybe not switching some up. If they don't switch up a ton, I think it'd be cool to do like a greatest hits type thing where it's like you go back to like one of the original names of it and not like
Do something to celebrate the 25 years of the show.
Right. So, all right, let's get into the first topic of the day, which is the NBA draft, and I find this year's to be it's intriguing for all the different reasons that I find a draft to be intriguing. Really, you have three main guys, and we pretty much know the order that they're going to go, right? We know Wemby is going to go number one of the Spurs. We know at this point the way it sounds, right, is Brandon Miller to Charlotte, and then Scoot going to Portland. Or, I guess, really, technically, whoever ends up with that third pick.
He could be going to New Orleans.
Right. There's a lot of stuff in that sense behind the scenes that intrigues me. But, and I want to save the other portion of the discussion I have that intrigues me more this year for obviously the last part. But the NBA draft kind of felt like it snuck up on us in a way.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was this week.
And it's only because, like I said, it's really these three main guys this year. And then after that, take your pick type stuff. And I think that ties into like the broader conversation I want to have about this. But does like just kind of knowing the the first three picks more or less off the bat. I mean, it feels like it takes away even more from it, but I think it just takes away from just a lot of the intrigue of it. So, and I think part of it too is really. Both our specific teams that we root for this year aren't even close to the lottery. So it's like, at that point for the picks that the Knicks and the Heat have, you're in the 20s.
And the Knicks don't even have their pick. They gave it to Portland.
Right, that's right. So it's like you got somebody who's probably just going to be, whether it's G League or bench portion of it, right? I mean, like look at the Heat pick last year, for example, with Jovic. I mean, he was bench/G League for most of the year anyway. So I think it's the way everything is now. I think the draft's a little bit different, and I wouldn't say wonky, but this year you got those three. And it's like a lot of development. It seems like to me.
And Adrian Wojnarowski, he just ruins the draft.
Well, allegedly he's not doing that this year.
Allegedly. He's been doing it for years, and I'll believe it when I see it. What about the hats? Are they going to be wearing hats of the wrong team?
Well, that portion of it's unfortunate because it's not CBA, but it's just the league rules. Like, you aren't technically traded because you aren't on the team. You aren't in the league yet. They only have your rights. So that's why when
get it.
When that happens the way it is. Whereas the NFL, their league rule is right. I mean, we see that one all the time. It's like, if you get drafted, if that pick gets traded while the pick is coming in, you wear that team that you are traded. Well, pick is traded to, Whereas the NBA, it's you have to wear the Nuggets hat or whatever before you get sent to Brooklyn. But yeah, it's interesting though because it's funny you mentioned that. I think the NFL switched it up because of the whole entire Eli Manning issue.
Yeah.
From 2004, and they got away from that. But now the NBA is really still the only league doing that.
Yeah, I get it, but there's got to be a way to change that because it just gets so confusing who's going to who, and these trades they happen like late throughout the night, and it's just like other than the first couple picks, you're like, oh okay, I know he's going there, but then you just like, wow, he's going there. So just a little confusing sometimes, and. The Woj thing, I hope it stops. You're saying that it's rumored it's going to stop. He's just saying the picks. Like that 1 year, it might have been his last year at Yahoo or ESPN brought him over. The fans were announcing the guy who's going to get drafted before the guy from the other guy, the second round guy that comes in and announces the picks.
Oh, Mark Tatum.
Yes. Yeah, they were saying the picks at the place before he even announced it. He started laughing a couple times. It got really embarrassing. And Woj continues to still do it.
Oh, I know the NBA hates him for it, and it's very interesting because I haven't seen anything, but I think Shams might be still doing the couple seconds before leaking thing.
Really?
But I haven't seen anything. Woj said he's not going to do it this year.
Yeah, he shouldn't. Who's telling him? You know, just don't tell these people.
Sources. He's got sources.
Yeah, but you know, like you said though, it definitely snuck up on me, snuck up on you. It sounds like too.
In a way, yeah.
And it's just, I'm just not even excited. Like, let's see, tomorrow's Thursday. If I got something else going on, I'm probably not putting that on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the Knicks don't have a first round pick. A lot of the names I just starting to hear about. I really just don't care. So, you know, and like you said, we know who the first 3 picks are going to be.
I think it's tough too because let's think about some of the other top end picks here recently, right? Whether it's Ja and Zion, right, to Cade Cunningham, to I couldn't even remember last year's even.
Who went first last year?
Sheesh, that's bad. Top of my head, I don't even know.
Oh, it's the Magic kid.
Oh yeah, Paulo Banchero. But and then like I think on the opposite end of this, like let's think back to like when we were like kids, more or less, right? Like 2003 obviously is like that highlight year, right? LeBron, who we all I think knew was going number 1. Like he was definitely number 1, but there was so much intrigue about the draft as a whole, right? Because it's LeBron, it's Carmelo, it's Wade, it ends up becoming Bosh, right? You have the international mystique of Milicic, but all like good, like we all knew they were good, type thing, right? And I'm not saying that we don't know Wemby's going to be good, or not good, or Scoot to Miller or anything like that. I just think none of the guys anymore are that level, and I think a lot of it has to do, and this is a completely different discussion, I think a lot of it is just the way youth is developed now and everything like that. Now, I'll say this. I think there's just so much better players internationally, too, now. That you can also, very clearly, outside of whether, you know, it's like Luka, right? A little bit different there. Like, 2-time reigning MVP coming into this season. Your finals MVP, but not arguably, to me, he is the best player in the league this year anyway. And Nikola Jokic was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial in the second round. And I hate talking about that still because that's all people talk about at the moment with him. But
that really happened.
Right. I mean, I think the draft now for the NBA is a lot like it does, even though it's much shorter, right? It does border what the NFL, and obviously to just a bigger degree because it's the pool of it, the MLB draft. And even NHL, I don't think the NHL draft gets enough talk about how actually like deep that draft can be sometimes. I mean, like Alex Killorn, free agent, but with Tampa Bay was like a 5th-round pick or something like that. But I mean, you can find talent deeper now, in that sense. Where, you know, if you're the MLB, if you're drafted in what was the 62nd round where Mike Piazza was, you're not the 0.01% of making it to the big leagues at that point either. So. I think that maybe plays a part in that too, and I think this kind of lends into like the broader discussion, right? Because I even felt it really this year with the NFL draft, where like are the drafts fun anymore? And I don't mean for like the players. I think that's an entirely different discussion as well. But from the fan viewing, the media experience, like are the drafts even like fun anymore? Like I said, I realized it fully this year with the NFL draft where I'm waiting for Washington's pick at 16, and I'm like, I'm just going to do other stuff until, like, they come up. And after that, like, I'm not going to watch it all anyway. Like, and I don't know if it's one of those, like, it just was, like, pounded into our heads so hard for a while, but, like, I don't find them enjoyable anymore. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, what's the reasoning for this? It's just... I think part of it... I mean, my opinion of them haven't changed.
I'll let you go first.
My opinion of them haven't changed too much with them. I mean, the NFL draft, you know, the 3 days there. NBA's just the 1 day. MLB, you can stream it all. But, you know, my opinion hasn't changed with them. I mean, it depends how you look at it. You know, if you're just there to see who gets drafted, then you probably will continue to like the drafts. But if you're a fan of a team and maybe it's because you're Washington, no offense, hasn't done much, and you just keep feeling like,
See, but that's the thing with that. I don't think it's so much
like,
that.
who cares? They're not going to get any better.
No, I don't think it's so much that. I mean, I think part of it for me might be the fact that, and I think you can speak to this maybe better from the NBA side of it, maybe more so that, like, I could. But even then, like, the amount of knowledge I've gained over even, like, the past year is different than what it was a year ago. But, like, the amount I pay attention now to college sports, I think I just kind of know more of the guys now where it's like, if a guy's actually going to be good or not, in that sense. So, I think maybe that keys in a little bit. But for me, I think it's just like maybe the ESPN effect, in a way. Like,
could be.
I don't want, like, I love the NFL. I love the NBA. But, like, this is something we've talked about here before, but, like, just the amount of coverage that they have on it. Like, I never say I get burned out of it. It's just that sometimes, like, in the middle of June, I kind of care less about what Stephon Diggs is doing.
I hear you.
When July comes around, I could kind of care less about what LeBron's doing.
They don't.
Right, and I get it. Look, we're both in the media, like, side of things now, professionally, right? Like, we get it. You have to get eyes on what you're talking and what eyes on your company and what's going to do that. Your heavy hitters, right? But the fan portion of it, when I take that shirt off and put on the fan shirt, it's like I could really give two shits. Like,
yeah,
I don't like, and I think that's where kind of the draft comes into it now a little bit. Is like, if you aren't going to offer me anything different than what you're already giving prior to and after, it's just mundane to me. Like, the NFL draft, I don't watch on ESPN anymore. I watch on NFL Network. Because I know they're going to be slightly more in-depth anyway than just Graney and Stephen A. and Todd McShit. I hate sweeping up Todd in this because I think he's a little bit better than the other guys. But, like, your I could really care less about, like, Mel Kiper at this point.
I hear you. I'm all for making fun of ESPN, so,
It's the same with the NBA because Greeny's going to be hosting it as well.
For example, I think was just this last week. I'm a huge golf guy. U.S. Open literally just finished up on Sunday, and they hype up this First Take show.
Right.
And like, absolutely, I hate when people put the word "take" in their shows. It's just
couldn't be us.
It's so stupid. But this First Take show, they hype it up like it's the greatest show in the world, and your U.S. Open just concluded on Sunday, one of the biggest golf tournaments of the year, and they're talking about the Bradley Beal trade to start the day.
Right.
It's like, who gives a crap? Bradley Beal, I haven't seen a highlight of him in years.
I think to be fair to you, that's a good point because I think some of it is too this year, though, for me with the NBA, just the amount of talk about Bradley Beal and obviously Damian Lillard now, and then obviously to compound with the Zion and Ja stuff. It's just like, I'm good. Like, I'm good.
And I know we're a weekly podcast, but to talk about the same topics every day.
Exactly.
It gets a little too much sometimes. And you're right, though. ESPN, I think, is anything you could think about that was good on ESPN is not anymore.
Pretty much.
And I think the drafts are part of that.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen A. I used to love Stephen A., but he's so much a cartoon of himself now that it's like, and that's the thing, right? Stephen A. was part of the NFL draft coverage. He's going to be a part of the NBA draft coverage. Same with Greeny. Again, I go back. I get it. Like, they are what brings eyes to your network because they say, frankly, outlandish things because you need them to. But I think that's why, like, for the NBA draft, I'll probably be watching if I tune on at all, which I won't be able to until, like, halfway through the first round anyway. Like, I'll probably just go to the NBA network because at least the guys over there, they're all strictly basketball guys and they can discuss it more. The only person on ESPN that I enjoy on the draft coverages anymore are like your Kirk Herbstreits and your Jay Billises because they're the only ones who are actually paying attention to that stuff year round. Mm-hmm. And not a shot on some of these other guys at this point, but like they're just so focused on multiple things and they're just so focused on saying whatever is going to get the most traction that they'll just say something outrageous, you know.
And these the NBA TVs, the MLB network, and the NFL network, they actually talk about all the teams as well.
Right.
They don't just sit there and talk about the Cowboys all year.
Like, I'm going to be very intrigued how ESPN will navigate Wembyama going to the Spurs when it actually happens. Because they could kind of care less about talking about the Spurs in general, right? But the fact that this kid who we've had eyes on for 3 years now from France, playing in pro level, doing the same thing that more or less Luka was doing before his draft, I don't know. And it's not like they were overly talking about Dallas anyway with that sense, but you have to remember, Luka was technically drafted by Atlanta. And they don't talk about Atlanta on ESPN as they do, say, on whether it's NBA or Turner. And I mean, they would talk a lot about Dallas only because they're one of those teams that I wouldn't classify them as small market, but they're not big market for basketball. But they have the owner to do it, and they usually are at least competitive enough that they're that at worst usually scrappy 7 or 6 seed in playoffs that will do something to you. So I'm really intrigued to see how that happens because the Spurs haven't been overall competitive in really 5 years, technically longer maybe, right? Like, and they aren't exciting anymore in terms of like, don't get me wrong, I still love watching Pop coach because that's one of the things I like, but look, Pop hasn't been in the limelight a ton lately.
People didn't even really care about them when they were good either.
Right, yeah.
They felt like they had to talk about it because they were the Spurs and they won championships. It's kind of like the Nuggets. If the Nuggets start winning a bunch of championships, they feel like they have to talk about it, even though they don't want to.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that coverage. One quick thing I do want to talk on before we go over and talk more baseball, but what's your viewpoint here at this point? Because it's very interesting how all this stuff more on the John Morant side of things has popped up. Where we are right now, and Brandon Miller being one of the top picks that will be happening in this draft. I still think he'll be picked at 2nd, right, or 3 at worst. And I just think we've seen enough red flags from him anyway in the first place, from that I wouldn't feel comfortable taking him that high. And we've seen what's been going on, obviously, with Ja, and he's suspended 25 games. And it seems like, even though he had issued another apology, to me, it seems like he just doesn't get it still. I don't know, and I think it all depends where he ends up. I think Charlotte would be an all right place for him. Jordan's on the way out, but the system's kind of there. It's a Spurs East type build that they are aiming for in Charlotte. I don't think he'd do well in New Orleans only because of the issues going on there at this point. Although David Griffin and the system down there, they tend to not really put up with it. Portland, I think, is enough out of the way that I think he'd be fine. I don't think he'd do well in, like, say, Atlanta. I don't think that would work out well for him. There's a number of teams, right, that I just don't think it would work out well. Obviously, Atlanta's not going to be sniffing near him pick-wise unless they trade up or anything like that. But I think what I'm getting at here is I just don't think I would be able to pull the trigger on him risk-wise for what's been going on with him in his personal life.
Yeah, I think the only way he drops in the draft is who the GOAT is in basketball take.
Well, that's just, yeah.
Paul George is his GOAT, I guess. But no, he's going to be drafted where you think he's going to be drafted just because of his talent. The Georgia kid in football, had some off-the-field type.
But you have to remember, though, about Davis, right? He did drop. Like, he was going to be a top 5 pick, and obviously he didn't drop a ton, but he fell to 10. He did drop.
Yeah, I just think basketball is a different type of sport in the fact where you cannot, if this kid is that talented and you just suffered a year of losing like that,
right?
You can't let that talent walk away. I feel like that's what these teams feel like in basketball. Football, you can maybe take another chance on someone because there's a lot of talent in football.
I feel
there's only a certain amount that is elite talent.
And I feel like, too, at least in football, because you bring up a good point. I feel like in football, the vets matter. They don't matter more in the sense of, like, whatever, but football, you have 53 people on the roster, right? The vets on a team really set the tone in football. Like, they really set the tone. And look, Davis going to Philly for football, I mean, that was just big because that's a system, like, they definitely don't put up with any nonsense. And the vets on there don't put up with any nonsense. Like, Fletcher Cox is going to beat the ever-living crap out of you if you do something stupid type stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that happens there more than the NBA. Not to say that it doesn't happen. You look around the league, right? We know about heat culture, right? It's pretty apparent to me, even though I have mixed emotions collectively on Thibodeau usually doesn't put up with too much of stuff like that. So, if you were going hypothetically to New York, at least on the court-wise, he would be handled pretty well. Rattle off a few more teams if I really wanted to, right? I think Golden State would probably keep him fairly in check. But what I'm getting at here, it's the teams that we've seen some success out of recently in some way, shape, or form that would do it, right? And it's not because, in my mind, of maybe players, but rather coaches, or maybe the players there who have been there a while, right? Like, to me at this point, he goes to, like, say, like, hypothetically, the Lakers. I think it's a failure. I don't think at this point LeBron is a good mesh with him, for example. And I definitely don't think a guy like Anthony Davis is going to do anything to you if you were to mess up. Whereas, I could definitely see, albeit we kind of went down a little bit, like Randall could probably smack around a little bit if he needed to, right? But definitely Jalen Brunson, I think, could at this point, right? Or despite him being, only a couple years older than him if he were to go to New York, like Mitchell Robinson, I feel like is one of those just no-nonsense dudes, where it's quiet, gentle giant type thing, but you don't want to piss him off.
Jimmy Butler?
Right, and I kind of mentioned he calls him, really, like Jimmy, we know Jimmy won't, we know Spo and Pat Riley certainly wouldn't allow for that. I mean, that's the reason why LeBron walked away from another contract with the Heat, so I don't know. I think basketball, it really does matter if you can find that system. They'll take care of you. If not, you might be in trouble.
Yep.
All right, so let's transition over to baseball because it's weird that we're talking so much about it in June at this point, but there's a lot going on across multiple levels. Let's start with the guy kind of more or less taking the national headlines right now, Luis Arraez. Batting at 400 again, but it's crazy because they do all these rule changes, and I still think the long ball is probably still kind of dominating a little bit too much in that sense, but that's more of a semantic that me and you will be able to talk about for a while, not on here. But I think it's pretty good that this is getting as much national play as it is. Now, I think the conversations of him being the next Tony Gwynn are a bit extreme. This is a guy who was about to be DFA'd a couple of years ago at one point, but I think this is big because, again, you have big headlines still with, say, your big heavy power guys, right? Your Shohei Ohtanis, right? But the fact that this is happening on a team like Miami, who is having actually their second best start ever as a franchise, and a team that is young and is going to be good, and this is something that we'll be talking about here at the end of this discussion with these small market teams being buyers at the trade deadline. I think that's big. Frankly, look, South Florida is a baseball market that they have completely failed to capitalize on. And I don't say that being like, well, yeah, no kidding. Look, it's no surprise. Latinos, Latinx, and other Hispanic-born migrants who live in South Florida, they all love baseball. So it's in the blood. And they've been waiting for a team probably to really show that off in a way. And anytime you see the World Baseball Classic in Miami, it's the most raucous atmospheres ever. And I don't think maybe if the Marlins were like that good at get to that point, but that place would be rocking. So I think having Luis Arraez kind of leading this offensive charge for them is huge. And I think he's become a national name as big as, like I said, I think some of the comparisons to Tony Gwynn are a bit absurd, but he's a nice comeback story. I mean, to be quite honest, like I said, a couple of years ago, he was going to be DFA'd up until a couple of injuries on the Twins, and next thing you know, gets traded for Pablo Lopez and is frankly having a breakout year. To me and you, his breakout year was last year, but he's having a breakout year nationally this year.
And you could say, I think we even mentioned it, that trade this offseason when he got traded, that we thought.
I still thought it was wild at the time.
Yeah.
I really did.
Some might even said the Twins won that trade. And so it's only June. It is getting towards the end of June now, and he's at 400. We've seen him slump. I'm pretty sure when they played the Mariners, he didn't get a hit that series.
Yeah, he was 0 for Seattle.
And he had to get 2 5-for-5 games to get back there.
And what does he do?
He gets back.
it.
He gets back there. And it just, not to be negative here, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to keep it up.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is very tough. When did the 94 season get canceled?
August.
So he had a 400 average in August.
Yeah.
When?
No, his was 394.
When it got canceled?
Correct.
And it was in August?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, be interesting to see where he is in August. It's a lot of pressure.
Well, that'll be the do or die point.
Will he win the batting title this year? I think so.
Yeah. definitely for the league and definitely for the NL. I think second place even in the league as a whole, I think is Acuna at 325, right?
And he's having a great year. A phenomenal year. The only thing with Arraez, he just no power, doesn't steal, if any, bags.
Yeah, he's not a quick guy.
And he's just slapping the ball around the field, finding that grass. But
in that regard, kind of like Tony Gwynn, admittedly.
Yeah, he's not Tony Gwynn, but he's having a great average year. He's always had great average.
Right.
No 400.
No.
But he's always been a great average hitter. So this is not a surprise at all. He's just really putting it all together. He's showing what he can really do. And I don't know. It's just, I still think he's going to, which 350 is a great year. We got to remember that. 350
right.
is an unbelievable betting.
Right.
I think he's going to drop to like 350 by the end of it. But I just don't see him keeping it up to 400. But 350 is a great year.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, right, August. And that is a key month because pitchers, and I was listening to Pedro Martinez talk about this last night, and he is right. It's something that I don't think many people think about primarily, right, is pitchers tire out first before hitters do in a season. And that happens right about this time is when you see that first kind of like rush of fatigue that a pitcher might have. But for batters, it's later on because you're able to catch up on pitching first, but then it swaps, post All-Star break where the pitchers finally get that upper hand back a little bit once they have a little bit more of that break. Batters, you get to the dog days a little bit more, right? You're out there every day. It gets taxing. So, as much as I'd love for 400 to happen, I'm with you. But part of me, I think it's a little bit different, right? It's like, what reason do we have to believe that we will see a 400 batter? And look, he is a guy who doesn't strike out a ton. That's obviously a key part, but, there is a certain come in the back earth moment of this all, right? And you bring up the series against Seattle. He was 0 for, as they've been jokingly calling it, 0 for Seattle. And you're not going to go 5 for 5 2 straight days to resurrect that every time. That's just not how baseball works. So I'm intrigued. I think, though, for the sake of this, I'll zag. I think he does get it done. We've in the sports world recently, we've talked about all the things that haven't been done and will we ever see it, what will happen first type stuff. But let's think about, right, horse racing. We've seen now 2 Triple Crowns in the past decade, if you're not seeing one for
16 seed.
How many, right? 2 16 seeds now have defeated number ones after never seeing that been done. So I think it's anything's kind of possible, right? I mean, why not this year? Maybe that's the better.
Lions have still not been to the Super Bowl.
Correct, but maybe that's fair. But like this, they're different.
Cowboys still have been to an NFC title game.
Different time of the podcast, but why not this year, right? But like, why not this year be the year where we have a 400 guy, and why not have it be Arraez? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm kind of looking at. Then want to spend a couple minutes here before we talk some trade deadline stuff about the College World Series, and I think there's a lot of good steam behind it this year, and I think that's great. College baseball, it's tough around here locally because we just don't have any big name programs, at least on the national scale. Division I, right? Syracuse had a team back in the day that got disbanded. I think the closest technically Division I team might be St. Bonaventure, depending upon how you look at it. I mean, I know UB's got a team in Canisius and Niagara, but actually those might actually be the closest.
Vermont.
Oh, no, I lied. Cornell. Forgot about Cornell. But, Ivy League kind of gets a little bit of the afterthought for baseball for the most part. So, fair. But I think it's great for the sport. I think it's catching a lot of steam that college softball and the College Softball World Series had a few years ago. Before that, now has taken off to be its own beast, which is great. Because I really do think the spring sports have a lot to offer. I think football, and we all obviously know about basketball, and hockey's gotten to that point now a little bit too, but I think these spring sports, and like baseball really, especially at this point, that kind of became an afterthought for a while. I think getting this team that they have right now is great, and I think a lot of it has to do with, they're doing the thing that football and basketball were on a little bit ago, where it's like, let's highlight these personalities a little bit. College baseball has a lot of great personalities. I don't think many people will kind of realize that, where for a while it was a lot about coach, right, whether it was Augie Guerrero or somebody like that, but you see a lot of people that got to ride in the LSU train a little bit with Selleck, and personally, it's not my brand of cup of tea, but you look around, and Omaha's always raucous, but it's a different type of raucous this year in Omaha.
Yeah, one thing I have to say about, maybe this is Manfred's fault, but why is the combine going on at the same time?
Yeah.
Got some great players at the College World Series and are not going to the combine, including maybe the first two picks in the draft, a historic first two picks in the draft.
Well, my only argument to that is, although I do agree with you, is the fact that I've always found combines to be more for the guys who are under the radar.
Okay.
But I'm also kind of over those as well in the whole entire draft process. So, yeah.
Anyway, looking forward to LSU beating Wake Forest twice here.
Ooh.
Almost beat them. Obviously, my Pittsburgh Pirates won the inaugural lottery, so hopefully they might take the pitcher, but hopefully they take Dylan Cruz, the center fielder for LSU, who's having another great, phenomenal year there, and he's looking good. He looked good in the black and gold. Not been good times for the Pirates lately. 9 straight losses this afternoon. But anyway, the Pirates, nope, not Pirates. We're going to talk about College World Series, and
the Pirates are due up here in a minute.
I always enjoy when it comes around. I know it's always right after the softball World Series, and my dad's been watching it a lot, so it's on the TV, and Wake Forest is good, very good. Who knew? Wake Forest, powerhouse.
Well, I mean, to be fair, though, in your defense, first time since the 50s they've made it to Omaha.
Yeah, so...
well, that wasn't in Omaha then, but, first time they made it to
Who the other two in it? TCU and who?
TCU, LSU, Wake, and Tennessee.
Tennessee just got eliminated.
Yes.
By LSU. Anyway.
Drawing a blank there because that's fresh.
But
they were in the Final Four though.
LSU has to play Wake Forest tonight or today, sometime today. But
right now, I think it might be right now.
They got to beat them twice, which is always kind of tricky in any type of sport where you have to double elimination tournament. You got to beat the guy twice. But looking forward to it. Big Little League World Series guy.
We're on that in August.
You know, I like that they're all called World Series. I think that's kind of cool. World Series.
Right. All right, let's, before we get out here, do want to talk some trade deadline stuff for baseball. And I know that's, over a month away here, but finally starting to see some rumblings on a couple different things that I find pretty fascinating, including, I mentioned the Marlins a little bit, but we see the Reds, and even your Pirates have come out. Well, not come out, it's all leaked information type stuff, but it's come out and said that they intend to be buyers at the deadline. And I know what maybe some people, the casual baseball fans, are thinking in a sense where it's like, Pirates, Marlins, and Reds all buyers at the deadline. Like, yeah, these small market teams are doing good this year. They find themselves in these spots. And obviously stuff can change, right? I mean, you mentioned, unfortunately, the Pirates are in a skid right now, but the way the division is, they're still in it. Obviously, the Reds are leading the division. Marlins are second place in the East.
Pumped.
Oh, God, he to the point that I think
Watching MLB Network late at night.
to the point, and it's funny. It's funny you bring that up because it's funny. So me and my brother were kicking around a couple ideas for my dad for kind of a combo gift for Father's Day / his birthday of going down to Cincinnati for a game. Nah, I don't want to do that. Whatever. I'm like, okay. Of course, lo and behold, a couple days ago, he goes, "Are they home Labor Day weekend?" So I think him and my mom are going down to Cincinnati Labor Day weekend for a Reds game. But yeah, we are in a moment, and I've mentioned this a couple different times on different platforms, but baseball this year, the teams that I wouldn't say we wrote off, but didn't expect to be buyers at the deadline are going to be buyers. And I think that is great, one, for baseball, but two, it really limits the pool of what the traditional buyers at the deadline, your Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, etc., kind of have to pull from, right? And I've said this now a couple different times, but the only two true sellers I see at the deadline still at this point are the A's and the Royals. And I think the Royals are going to be more of the team that go calling for, only because the A's don't have a ton, and I think the guys that people want, you're going to have to pay up for, a.k.a. Esteury Ruiz. I mean, maybe there's some bullpen pieces for the A's, but I mean, the Royals have, I think, more of the juice to kind of grab from at the moment. But I think it's great for baseball that this trade on you're always seeing these small market teams go out and buy for a change. And I think it's also pretty telling, because also, especially in the Pirates news that I saw today about that, was the fact that, and Morris said, like, ownership, a.k.a. Bob Nutting, does want to spend more or less at this point. So I think that's great. I've gotten flack for it. I know a lot of people don't necessarily believe me, but to me, Pittsburgh is a baseball town. And
what?
I think a lot of it goes back to their history. Frankly, one of the more historic teams in the MLB, whether people want to admit it or not, that have made so much impact on the game. And to me, when the Pirates are good, man, it's such a different atmosphere to be around. I mean, I went to college in Western Pennsylvania. A lot of Pirates fans when they were making when they were making those wild card runs, and don't get me wrong, they certainly rooted on and were thrilled because the Steelers were still good at that point, the Pens and stuff like that. But it's something different about when the Pirates are good. It's just some different switch gets flipped, and I definitely think that's the case in Cincinnati. I don't care what people say about the Bengals. Cincinnati is a baseball town at the end of the day.
It's like
I know in Miami that's not necessarily the case, but there are people in Miami that care deeply about baseball.
Same in Milwaukee.
Right. And it's just such a different vibe. When those teams are good, it's a different switch that gets flipped. And those fans take it to another level. So I think that all those teams buying at the deadline is good for the game. Tremendous for the game.
Yeah. Do you know what two franchises have met the most in baseball history?
Have met the most.
Met most games against each other.
I'll go.
One is the Pirates.
I'll go Pirates Reds.
Probably close, but I learned it was Pirates Cubs.
God
actually
damn it.
Met the most. So yes.
I was going for time-wise on that
They
one.
met like over 2,000 times, which is pretty nuts. So
Wild.
They have been around a while. Fortunately, Paul, I don't think the Pirates are going to be buyers because I see a huge dip coming here. They got to fire the hitting coach.
Jeez.
They were a little premature on the extension with the manager.
I don't think so about that.
But then again, really, baseball managers are probably the least important out of all the sports. So,
Ooh.
you're going to tell me Bruce Bochy, the Rangers? Going to make that
No,
case?
I just think, personally, I say NFL.
Really?
Well, I think it's more I think it's more generally football. I don't necessarily mean NFL, but I think it's more football. I think
So, Adam Gase doesn't get the blame. Adam Gase should not get the blame for the Jets that 1 year.
No, he
You want to look at your soul?
he admittedly deserves a lot. I'm just saying football a lot of it comes down to the coordinators. Because they're the ones usually in control of the outright play calling and stuff like that. So,
Okay. I see your point. See, you don't think the hitting coach deserves any blame, or the pitching coach.
no, I mean, given the situation.
All right. But anyway, I don't think they're going to be buyers. I think they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to do much. There's not.
I wouldn't sell if I was Pittsburgh. I can tell you that much.
No.
Unless you're like trading away. I don't know.
Team Joy.
No, well, say Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
So he might be the better fit for this.
Rich Hill.
Yeah, but like, even for them, I'd be like, yeah, but you're giving us like your number 3 prospect for him in return. Like, I
make these signings.
now I think it's a little bit different, right? If somebody came calling for, say, I'll go step up, say like Brian Hayes. You're giving me like 2 of your top 5 prospects. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm the Pirates, I'm doing that. I'm doing King's Ransom type stuff for players this year.
Yep.
So
So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's still a while away. I don't know.
that's the other thing about it too is usually at this point we have at least some rumblings about possibly players on the move, and we really haven't had that. The only name that has consistently popped up has been Aroldis Chapman, but that's pretty much it in terms of players to be on the move.
Chris Bryant.
Yeah, but that cooled off pretty quick once he got hurt again. So,
Yeah, maybe Charlie Blackmon finally gets moved. The Rockies would be.
do you have a no trade clause?
I have no idea. The Rockies are taking their dip though.
Yeah, they're bad.
Nationals will be selling too. But they
I don't
have
think. See, I don't think the Nationals are going to sell.
I think they're.
I think it's a lot like Pittsburgh, where
Yeah.
where you see the worst case.
They've already sold everything.
Well, it's where you see the worst case for Pittsburgh in terms of the deadline. I think the Nationals aren't going to do anything. They gotta.
Like Oakland, they're not
The
gonna.
Nationals have a fantastic young core, and I mean they're right down the road from us. Their AAA team in Rochester. They got other guys coming. Like Darren Baker's legit. And he's not even on the 40 man.
Adams.
It's a little bit different, but yes, Matt Adams, excellent name call. He's had a. They have a lot of good guys there, but the key thing there is like those prospects are around like vets, MLB vets. Luis Torrens is in Rochester right now. I'm just going from example. Nomar Mazara's there. I mean, Sean Doolittle's back in that.
Red
bullpen,
Wings
actually, so.
Red Wings guy.
I am
Making the playoffs this
Shut
year?
up! Shut up! Well, did you know that they split it up this year? How they're doing it?
I've seen the standings.
Yeah. So they're getting hot at the right time for the second half of
It's
stuff. To
stupid.
happen.
Indianapolis never comes
Yeah.
around anymore.
I mean,
I want
that
Indianapolis.
portion of it I do agree is dumb, because like Omaha is in Rochester this week.
Why do they get to come? Not Indy.
Right. Exactly. So
That's why I used to always go to the game, watch Indy play.
you have to look. We double dip here in Seneca Falls, but like Louisville's not in Rochester all this year, but they were in Syracuse. So I don't know. It's whatever. But yeah, I don't see the Nationals selling. I don't see any of the NL East teams selling de facto just yet. Although the Mets, I could see doing it because I think if they find themselves here going into like the All-Star break really behind,
Reds have won 11 in a row, by the way.
they won it this afternoon, eh? How about that? I could see someone like the Mets try to mortgage off one of those contracts so they can really take a run at Shohei. But that's a completely different reason of selling and method than what we're talking about.
Yep.
But I don't see the Nationals selling.
All
I
right.
just don't.
All right.
But I've been multiply wrong before across the board.
You've never been wrong.
I like your attitude, Nick. I like your attitude.
You picked Arraez. He's going to get over 400 this year.
I appreciate it. So I'll take care of Fresh Takes for today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, whether it's live here on YouTube or after the fact on YouTube, Spotify, and Spotify for podcasters, and a couple other platforms that I always forget to mention. Nick, who are you shouting out today?
I'm going to shout out my good friend from Keuka College, Tim White. It's his birthday on Monday as well.
Oh, happy birthday to Tim.
Yeah, Tim White, good guy. Happy birthday on Monday, which is, I say Monday because that's also Paul's birthday. So happy early birthday for the Paul.
Thanks for the unnecessary reminder for how old I'm getting.
He's turning 29 this year.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
29.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not 30. No, 29.
All I know is pain.
Happy birthday, Paul.
And Tim.
And Tim.
Yeah, so that'll do it. I'll be 29 when we come back to you next week. Thanks for the reminder, Nick. Really appreciate it. Although I don't really care. I'm at the point where I don't overly care about my birthday. But like, oh boy. Is your phone okay?
Good.
You're good? Okay. But yeah, I don't get overly too excited, I guess, about it or anything like that. I'll enjoy what, if we end up venturing out Saturday at all for breweries or wineries or whatever, but that's about it. I try and keep it.
He's excited,
even
people.
No, I'm not. Do I look like I get excited over that stuff?
Just on the show.
Okay. Nick, you sure about that?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So we'll be back at it again next Wednesday. Until then, enjoy the NBA draft if you so choose. Enjoy some baseball. Other stuff. It's so weird. We don't have anything else really going on in the sports world right now. It's actually been kind of quiet in terms of actual topics to discuss.
NASCAR, Bubba's going to make the playoffs this year.
I hope. So we'll talk with everybody next Wednesday. Until then, have a great, safe weekend, everybody. We'll talk with everybody then.